Xavi Hernandez is one of the greatest midfielders to ever play the game. Some regard him as the very best. He won absolutely everything with Barcelona, including a treble. He was absolutely brilliant. But all great players don't become great managers. Xavi Hernandez is an exception. This is my second episode of my tactical analysis series. The first episode on Xabi Alonso, another Spanish midfielder who won the World Cup. A bit of a reoccurring theme, but I think we'll be waiting a while on Iniesta or Busquets, so maybe it's the last for now. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the fantastic job Xavi has done at Barcelona. If you do enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and leave me your suggestions for which team and manager you want me to do next. In the summer of 2021, the greatest player to ever play the game, Lionel Messi, who had spent his entire career at Barcelona, was forced out of the club due to financial issues. And Barcelona did not handle this well, because by November they sat 10th in the Liga, they'd been knocked out of the Champions League, sent to the Europa League, and it was not looking good for Barcelona, and Ronald Koeman was sacked. So who would Barcelona turn to after the Dutchman's departure? Well, former player Xavi had been playing, then became a manager in Qatar, and he seemed to be the prime candidate. I even criticised this decision myself because I thought it was strange considering Xavi had no real experience in Europe, so to give him such a big job like Barcelona would have been a bit strange. And well, how wrong I was, because Xavi did improve Barcelona. They didn't win any trophies that season, but they went from 10th to 3rd, getting the Champions League spot for the following season, though surprisingly they didn't win the Europa League, losing to eventual champions Frankfurt. Xavi was able to spend a good bit of money in the 2022 summer transfer window trying to improve that Barcelona squad. He spent a total of 158 million euros, bringing in the likes of Rafinha, Jules Koundé, Robert Lewandowski, Pablo Torre, Frank Kessie, Andres Christensen, Hector Bellerin and Marcos Alonso. Xavi was backed in the transfer window. This was now his opportunity to show that he was a good manager, that he could do it for one of the biggest clubs in the world. The first game of the season did not go to plan, as it was a 0-0 draw with Rayo Vallecano at home, with Sergio Busquets getting sent off. However, results would definitely improve, as Barcelona would win their next 5 games, including one in the Champions League versus Victoria Plzen, scoring a total of 19 goals, only conceding 2. Just in the Liga, Barcelona went 2 entire months without conceding a goal, the 22nd of August till the 22nd of October. And in the league, Barcelona only dropped points in 3 games from August to January 1st. However, in the Champions League, it wasn't too good. 2 losses to Bayern Munich, a loss and a draw versus Inter Milan, and they would be playing back-to-back seasons in the Europa League. In January of 2023, Barcelona picked up their first trophy in almost 2 years after beating Real Madrid in the Supercopa de España final. Despite back-to-back years in the Europa League, Barcelona would again get knocked out, this time by Manchester United, who would go on to be knocked out by Sevilla, who are currently 12th in the Liga. Football is a funny game. Barcelona's goals started to dry out. Pedri was injured. The performances weren't necessarily great, but they were getting 1-0 wins. They were still picking up points. Real Madrid were dropping points, and Barcelona won the league for the first time in 4 years. Xavi brought Barcelona back to competing, but how exactly did he do this? Now, of course, Barcelona operate in their typical 4-3-3 formation. It's what you expect Barcelona to play. However, when they're in possession, which is the majority of the time because Xavi loves possession, Valde comes up here, Gavi goes more centrally, Busquets and De Jong will go into a pivot, Pedri goes there, Rafinha goes there, and Lewandowski still operates as a striker. So you have this 3-2-4-1 formation, similar to what Manchester City do, where the back 4 becomes a back 3. There is a pivot of Busquets and De Jong, Pedri and Gavi in a more attacking midfield role, Balde and Rafinha as wingers, and Lewandowski obviously up front. One thing this team does like to do is get to one side of the pitch and play the ball across the pitch, so that creates space for Barcelona. Now, Lewandowski has scored a lot of goals for Barcelona, but it hasn't probably been as much as you would have expected him to. And that is because one of his roles he's played is he'll make a run this way, which will bring the opposition centre-back over here, and someone like Gavi or someone like Pedri or someone like Rafinha will cut inside. An example of this is in the El Clasico in January, where Lewandowski comes across looking for possession. He does eventually receive it, but the centre-backs have dragged across, leaving Gavi in space, and he does eventually score a crucial goal. It's a regular occurrence. Although it seems simple, it seems basic, it is something that happens a lot when Barcelona play. You'd associate Barcelona with tiki-taka football, but it's not quite that. It's more direct passing. It's fairly simple. Sometimes Barcelona will give up possession in order to play a long ball. For example, Christensen might hit the ball over the top to Rafinha in space. Look at the game versus Atletico Madrid a few months ago, a 1-0 win, where a ball was hit long. Rafinha got it, he played it across to Ferran Torres, and he scored. They attempted that a lot in that game, and they did tend to suffer. They ended up losing the ball. They're eager to exploit space, so maybe they do sacrifice possession, but they will want to create chances. Barcelona have the 6th highest XG in Europe, while the 14th most goals scored. That tells you a lot of these players haven't been clinical enough. They haven't been scoring the goals. The likes of Lewandowski, Ansu Fati, Gavi, Pedri, Rafinha, they've all underperformed on their XG. Frankie de Jong's been a player Manchester United really want, but I don't see him leaving because he's so important to Barcelona. He's given a lot more freedom in this Xavi side. He's allowed to make his dribbles. He's allowed to beat players. So it's not quite the Barcelona where you expect quick passes, 1-2 touches. Players do have a lot more freedom in Xavi's Barcelona. Dembele is another example. Players that like to dribble, and sometimes that can be bad because there's not a definitive thing you have to do in this Barcelona side. So that can be wrong. You can make wrong decisions. You could lose the ball. Sometimes we often see this backline of Araujo, Christensen and Koundé, which have been fantastic this season. Also Ter Stegen, defensively they've been brilliant. You can just often see them keeping the ball between themselves, just holding on to it, waiting for that little bit of space. And once they do have that space, a long ball can be played and boom, you have an opportunity, maybe for Lewandowski, maybe for Rafinha. Now, they haven't been clinical enough, but once that clinicality comes, while the old Barcelona would have had quick passes that build up to a quality chance, this new Barcelona wants quantity of chances, so they might have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shots in a match. They may only score one goal, but they're still having loads of opportunities. But I do look at this Barcelona side, and I think they are going to exploit you. The way they do it is quite simple. You know, the fake runs, that is relatively simple. It's fairly straightforward for me to explain. But ultimately, it is effective because you're not going to leave Lewandowski getting space, because if the centre-back stays there expecting the run of Xavi, then Lewandowski's in space. Lewandowski's one of the most clinical players in the world and he's going to score. So maybe him making the fake runs has damaged his personal numbers, although they have been decent. For the betterment of the team, players like Xavi and Pedri getting opportunities, Rafinha, Balde. An example of how they want to create a quick chance is Barcelona on average this season have had 63.3% possession. Compare that to Man City, who have 64.9%, but their sequence time is slightly lower than Manchester City because their players are a lot quicker. For anyone that doesn't know, sequence is essentially how long you have the ball. Barcelona's is 12.72, while Manchester City's is 15.31. Man City keep the ball longer. Man City do score more goals because they're one of the best teams in the world. But it's just an example of how Barcelona want to create chances quickly. The defence has been a strong point of Barcelona this season, with Ter Stegen being one of the best goalkeepers in the world. After a poor couple of years, he's kept a total of 26 clean sheets in the Liga. That's not including the game versus Celta Vigo because I'm recording this before. Araujo and Koundé have also been brilliant, but I like to give Christensen more credit because I probably think Araujo has been better, but you kind of expect him to be good. We all know how good he is. But Christensen was always a decent enough player at Chelsea, but this season is the best I've ever seen him play. To pick him up on a free transfer, what a deal. And while all the defensive players have been good, the likes of De Jong, Busquets, Xavi in his first season, he's really matured, become a very important player to Barcelona. Their most important player for me is Pedri. Just to show you how important Pedri is, he had an injury which saw him miss 11 games. Of those 11 games, Barcelona lost 3 of them and drew 1. And a lot of the wins were unconvincing 1-0 wins. There was nothing special about them. The spark in the team, it all comes from Pedri, and at just 20 years old, being the star player for Barcelona just shows you how good he is. There has been an inconsistency in terms of goals. There was a lot of games where they barely won 1-0, a lot of big chances missed, but obviously that can be improved on, and with summer transfers coming in, that's going to add extra competition for players to be more clinical and play even better. And if Messi returns to this Barcelona side, I honestly do genuinely believe Barcelona are back to competing for Champions Leagues, because this team is good, but you add the greatest player ever, who isn't what he used to be, but he's still quality, he's still one of the best players in the world. If that does happen, I think you should take Barcelona seriously for competing for the Champions League next season. And even if it doesn't, I think there's a possibility. They won't be favourites, but I think they're a good team that could go far in the competition and won't be playing in the Europa League. Xavi has done a brilliant job. I doubted him when he was first appointed, but I was clearly proved wrong. Xavi has brought Barcelona back. They're winning league titles now in the next couple of years, even with their financial troubles. I do think they can get back to competing for Champions League and get back to being one of the best sides in Europe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Barcelona are back? And let me know in the comments what you think of what Xavi has done at Barcelona. Has he been a success or has he been a failure? I doubt anyone's going to say he's a failure. Thank you all so much for watching this video. It is really appreciated. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy, and if you want to support the channel that expert more, feel free to become a channel member. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.